charged you $50 if your guest didn't validate their parking. He was everything I wasn't. Smooth where I was rough, privileged where I'd earned every callus on my hands, golden boy handsome where I was just regular guy decent looking. He was also married, with 2 kids under 10. I'd found out about Derek the way most betrayed husbands do, through a combination of suspicious behavior and dumb luck. Vanessa had started working late more often, taking weekend strategy sessions that never seemed to result in any actual strategies. She'd bought new lingerie that I never saw, started going to a gym that was 20 minutes farther from our house than the perfectly good one 2 blocks away. But it was the GPS tracker that sealed it. I'd installed it on her car 6 months ago, after she'd been in a minor fender bender, and I wanted to make sure she was driving safely. She'd forgotten about it, and I'd forgotten about it too, until I started noticing patterns in the data. Patterns that showed her car parked at Harborview Estates for hours at a time, usually when she claimed to be at client meetings or working late. The app on my phone showed me exactly where she was right now, Derek Monroe's building, Unit 4B, where she'd been for the past 4 hours. I opened my laptop and pulled up the folder I'd been building for 3 weeks. Screenshots of text messages I'd recovered from our shared cloud backup. Photos of Derek's car parked next to hers at the Riverside Motel. Credit card statements showing charges at restaurants I'd never been to, on nights when she claimed to be working through dinner. And tomorrow's courier receipt, already paid for, ready to deliver every single item of Vanessa's clothing, shoes, makeup, and personal belongings to Harborview Estates, Unit 4B. My phone buzzed with another message from her. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow night. I have so much to tell you about the conference." I'm sure she did. I wondered if any of it would involve Derek's tongue down her throat or the way she moaned his name in that motel room. Yes, I had audio recordings too, courtesy of a voice-activated recorder I'd hidden in her purse after I'd seen them together the first time. "Looking forward to it," I typed back. "I have some news to share too." That was an understatement. Tomorrow, Vanessa would discover that I'd filed for divorce, frozen our joint accounts, changed the locks on our house, and arranged for her entire life to be delivered to her boyfriend's doorstep like an Amazon package nobody ordered. But that was just the opening move. I took a long pull from my warm beer and opened another file on my laptop. A list of everyone who'd helped Vanessa lie to me. Her best friend Megan, who'd provided alibis and covered stories. Her coworker Paige, who'd helped coordinate the fake work trips. Even Derek's roommate Tyler, who'd apparently been hosting their little love nest when Derek's wife was out of town. They'd all played their parts in this elaborate theater production called Eli's a Sucker. Now it was time for the final act, and I was going to be both director and star. My phone rang, jolting me from my planning. The caller ID showed my best friend Cal's name. "Working late again?" Cal's gravelly voice carried the weight of too many cigarettes and not enough sleep. Something like that. "What's up?" "Just wanted to make sure you're still good for tomorrow. The courier thing." Cal was the only person who knew what I was planning. He'd been my friend since high school, served 2 tours in Afghanistan before coming back to work at my supply yard. He was loyal as a dog and twice as mean when someone crossed people he cared about. "All set. Deliveries scheduled for 10 a.m. sharp." "And you're sure about this? Once we pull this trigger, there's no taking it back." I looked at my phone screen, where Vanessa's last message still glowed with its fake hearts and false promises. "I'm sure. She made her choice. Now she gets to live with the consequences." "Fair enough. Want me to be there when she comes home tomorrow?" "Yeah. Bring your camera. I want to document her reaction when she realizes the locks are changed." Cal chuckled, a sound like gravel in a cement mixer. "This is going to be better than cable TV." After I hung up, I walked to the window and looked out at our quiet street. Mrs. Hatcher's porch light was still on. The old woman never seemed to sleep, just sat by her window watching the neighborhood like a security guard. She'd been the one to first mention seeing Vanessa hugging that Monroe boy in the parking lot behind the post office. Looked mighty friendly for co-workers, she'd said, her eyes sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. Tomorrow, Mrs. Hatcher would have front-row seats to the best show Castleport had seen in years. I finished my beer and headed upstairs to our bedroom, my bedroom, after tomorrow. Vanessa's side of the closet was already empty, all her clothes packed in boxes and ready for delivery. Her jewelry box sat on the dresser, also packed. Even her collection of romance novels was boxed up and labeled, everything except her wedding ring, which sat alone on her nightstand. I'd leave that for last, maybe mail it to Derek's office with a note. You break it, you bought it. My phone buzzed one more time. Another message from Vanessa. Sweet dreams, love you. I set the phone aside without responding. Tomorrow, she'd learn the difference between love and lies, between marriage and make-believe, and I was going to enjoy every single second of her education. The courier van pulled up to Harborview Estates at exactly 10 a.m., just as I'd planned. I watched from across the street, parked in my pickup truck with a clear view of the building's entrance. Cal sat beside me, his phone ready to record whatever happened next. You sure she's still up there? Cal asked, adjusting his baseball cap. I checked the GPS app. Vanessa's car was still in the visitor parking section. She's there, probably having breakfast with lover boy, planning their next romantic getaway. The courier driver, a kid who couldn't be more than 20, started unloading box after box from his van. 12 boxes in total, each one labeled with Vanessa's name and Derek's address. Clothes, shoes, makeup, books, picture frames, even her collection of scented candles that had always made me sneeze. Jesus, Cal muttered. You really cleaned house. 15 years of marriage doesn't leave itself behind, but it sure as hell can be packed up and shipped out. My phone rang. Vanessa's ringtone. I hadn't gotten around to changing it yet. Hi, honey, I answered, keeping my voice cheerful. How's the conference? Oh, it's great. Really informative sessions on client relationship management. Her voice had that slightly breathless quality she got when she was lying. I should be home around 6 tonight. Through Derek's building's glass entrance, I could see the courier talking to the doorman, gesturing at the growing pile of boxes. The doorman looked confused, checking his clipboard. That's nice, sweetheart. Hey, I sent a package your way. Some things I thought you might need. A package? What kind of package? Just some of your stuff. Don't worry about it. There was a pause. Eli, what are you talking about? What stuff? The doorman was on his phone now, probably calling up to Derek's apartment. I watched him nod, then gesture for the courier to bring the boxes inside. Your clothes, mainly. Some personal items. I figured you might want them where you're staying. Where I'm staying? Eli, I'm at the Marriott. Why would you send my clothes to a hotel? Are you? At the Marriott? Another pause. Longer this time. Of course I am. Where else would I be? I don't know, Vanessa. You tell me. The doorman had disappeared, probably taking the boxes upstairs. I imagined Derek's face when he opened his door to find his girlfriend's entire wardrobe being delivered like room service. Eli, you're scaring me. What's going on? I called the Marriott yesterday. They don't have any record of a Vanessa Dorsey checking in this week. Or any week, for that matter. Silence. Complete, dead silence. So I'm curious, I continued, my voice still conversational. If you're not at the Marriott, where exactly are you? And why are you lying to me about it? There must be some mistake. Maybe they booked me under the company name or... Vanessa. What? Stop lying, we both know where you are. My phone started buzzing with another call. Derek's number, which I'd memorized from Vanessa's phone records. I declined it and put the phone back to my ear. Someone's trying to call you? I asked. No, I don't. Eli, please, just tell me what's happening. What's happening is that your boyfriend is probably standing in his hallway right now, looking at 12 boxes of your belongings and wondering how his perfect little secret just got delivered to his front door. The sharp intake of breath told me everything I needed to know. Oh, and Vanessa, don't bother coming home. I changed the locks this morning. Divorce papers were filed an hour ago. I hung up and looked at Cal, who was grinning like he'd just won the lottery. That, he said, was beautiful. Pure poetry. My phone immediately started ringing again. Vanessa's number. I declined the call and turned off the phone. Phase 1 complete, I said. Now comes the fun part. We drove to my office at Dorsey Construction Supply, a converted warehouse on the industrial side of town. It wasn't much to look at from the outside, just a big metal building with a hand-painted sign, but it was mine, built from nothing but sweat and stubborn determination. Inside, my secretary Janet looked up from her computer with raised eyebrows. Eli, I thought you were taking the morning off. Change of plans. Any calls? 3 from Vanessa in the last 10 minutes. She sounded upset. I bet she did. Hold all my calls from her. In fact, hold all calls from anyone with the last name Dorsey except me. Janet had worked for me for 8 years. She was smart enough not to ask questions when I got that tone in my voice. Cal and I went into my office and closed the door. I opened my laptop and pulled up the Facebook page for Castleport Community Board, a local group where people posted everything from yard sale announcements to complaints about potholes. You really going to air your dirty laundry in public? Cal asked. Not dirty laundry, just facts. Public service announcement, you might say. I started typing, to the Castleport community. I want to share something important about honesty and trust in our small town. This morning I discovered that my wife, Vanessa Dorsey, has been having an affair with Derek Monroe of Harborview Estates. This affair has been going on for at least 3 months, involving lies about work trips, fake conferences, and betrayal of our 15-year marriage. I'm sharing this not for sympathy, but because lies have a way of spreading through small communities like ours. Vanessa and Derek have involved others in their deception, including mutual friends who helped provide cover stories and alibis. I have documentation of everything: hotel records, GPS data, photographs, and recordings. I'm not sharing these publicly out of respect for privacy, but they exist and have been provided to my attorney. I believe in accountability. I believe that actions have consequences. And I believe our community deserves to know when people choose deception over honesty. The divorce papers were filed this morning. I wish Vanessa and Derek well in their new relationship, and I hope they'll be more honest with each other than they were with their spouses. Thank you for 15 years of friendship and support. I look forward to continuing to serve this community through Dorsey Construction Supply. Eli Dorsey. I read it over twice, checking for typos and making sure the tone was more disappointed than angry. Cal read over my shoulder. Damn, Eli, you're going to nuke them from orbit. Sometimes that's the only way to be sure. I posted it and immediately started getting notifications, comments, reactions, shares. Castleport was a town of about 8,000 people, and the community Facebook page was like the town square of the internet age. My phone, which I'd turned back on, started ringing immediately. Vanessa again. This time I answered. Eli, please, you have to take that post down. People are calling me, texting me. My parents just called. Funny how quickly word travels in a small town. You're destroying my reputation, my career. How am I supposed to face people? I don't know, Vanessa. How are you planning to face me when you got home tonight? With more lies about your conference. It's not what you think. Derek and I, we're just friends. We work together. I have recordings, Vanessa, audio recordings of you two at the Riverside Motel. Would you like me to post those too? Silence. I didn't think so. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay at Derek's place or find somewhere else to live. You're not welcome in my house. Your belongings are being delivered to where you actually are, not where you pretended to be. And tomorrow, you can explain to your boss why half the town is talking about your affair with a coworker. Eli, please, can't we talk about this? Work something out? We are talking about it, right now. This is me working it out. I hung up again and looked at my laptop screen. The post had been shared 43 times in 10 minutes. The comments were a mix of shock, support, and requests for more details. Mrs. Hatcher had commented, "I saw them together weeks ago. Some secrets don't stay secret in Castleport." My employee Jim had written, "Sorry this happened to you, boss. You deserve better." Even the mayor had chimed in, "Eli, you and Vanessa are both valued members of our community. I hope you can work through this difficult time." But the comment that made me smile came from Megan Walsh, Vanessa's best friend and chief accomplice. "This is a private matter that shouldn't be aired publicly. Some of us know there are two sides to every story." I clicked on Megan's name and started typing a response. "You're absolutely right, Megan. There are two sides. There's the truth, and there are the lies you helped Vanessa tell. Which side do you think the recordings will support?" Cal laughed out loud. "You're enjoying this way too much." 15 years, Cal. 15 years of marriage, and she threw it away for what? Some smooth-talking pretty boy with a BMW? So what's next? I closed the laptop and stood up. "Next, we go have lunch at Murphy's Pub. Right about now, half the town will be there, and I'm betting Vanessa and Derek are going to make an appearance. They'll want to do damage control, try to spin their side of the story. And you want to be there when they do. I want to watch them try to explain the unexplainable. Should be entertaining." We left the office and drove toward downtown Castleport. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, calls, and text messages. The post was up to 67 shares now, and the comments section looked like a digital town hall meeting. This was just the beginning. Vanessa thought her world had collapsed this morning when those boxes showed up at Derek's door. She had no idea how much further it could fall. But she was about to learn. Murphy's Pub sat on Main Street like an old friend who'd seen too much, but never told tales. At least, not until today. By the time Cal and I walked through the heavy wooden door, the place was buzzing with the kind of energy that only came from premium gossip and day drinking. The lunch crowd was bigger than usual for a Tuesday. Word traveled fast in Castleport, and my Facebook post had apparently made the rounds faster than a fire truck heading to a barn blaze. "Eli!" Murphy himself called out from behind the bar. Sean Murphy was third-generation Irish, built like a linebacker, and had been serving beer and wisdom in equal measure for 20 years. "Heard you had an interesting morning." You could say that. I slid onto a bar stool, Cal taking the one beside me. "2 Guinness, Sean. It's been a hell of a day." "On the house," Murphy said, pulling the taps. "Man finds out his wife's cheating, first round's free. House rules." The conversations around us had that particular quality of people trying to talk quietly about something they desperately wanted to discuss loudly. I caught fragments. Saw them at the riverside. Those poor kids of Derek's. Always thought she was too good for her own good. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek himself. "We need to talk. This has gone too far." I showed the message to Cal, who snorted. "Too far? Kid's got some balls." "Not for long," I replied, typing back. "Murphy's Pub. Come explain yourself to the town." Murphy set our beers down and leaned across the bar. "So, what's the real story, Eli? Social media only tells you so much." Before I could answer, the pub door opened and Vanessa walked in. She looked like she'd been crying, her makeup slightly smudged, her usually perfect hair disheveled. She wore jeans and a sweater I didn't recognize, probably something from Derek's place, since all her clothes were currently being delivered to his apartment. The conversations in Murphy's didn't exactly stop, but they definitely got quieter. Vanessa looked around the room, her eyes finding mine across the crowded space. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she walked over, her chin raised in that defiant way she'd perfected during arguments about money, my work schedule, or whose turn it was to take out the trash. "Eli." Her voice was steady, but I could hear the tremor underneath. "Vanessa, how was your conference?" A few people nearby turned to listen openly now. Mrs. Patterson from the flower shop, Jim Riley who ran the hardware store, even Father McKenna from St. Mary's, though he at least had the grace to look embarrassed about eavesdropping. We need to talk, privately. I think we're past private conversations, don't you? Besides, half these people already know the story. The other half will know it by dinner time. She glanced around at the watching faces, her cheeks flushing red. Please, can we at least go outside? You want to talk? We can talk right here. I've got nothing to hide anymore. Cal took a long drink of his beer, clearly enjoying the show. Murphy wiped down the bar with unnecessary attention to detail, but his ears were obviously tuned to our conversation. Fine. Vanessa's voice got sharper. You want to do this here? Let's do this here. You had no right to post our private business on Facebook. You had no right to send my belongings to Derek's apartment. And you had no right to file for divorce without even trying to work things out. Work things out? I turned on my bar stool to face her fully. Like the way we worked out your 3-month affair? Or the way we worked out all those fake business trips? Which part exactly were you planning to work out with me? It's not what you think. I have recordings, Vanessa. That stopped her cold. The color drained from her face. Recordings of you and Derek at the Riverside Motel. Very detailed recordings. Would you like me to play them for everyone? Or should we stick to the general summary? Murphy coughed and suddenly found something very interesting to clean on the other end of the bar. Father McKenna mumbled something about needing to get back to the church, but most of the other patrons stayed put, apparently deciding this was better than anything on daytime television. You recorded us? Vanessa's voice was barely a whisper. I recorded my wife lying to me and sneaking around with another man. Seemed like something I might need for the divorce proceedings. The pub door opened again, and Derek Monroe walked in like he owned the place. He wore khakis and a polo shirt that probably cost more than most people's grocery budget, his hair perfectly styled even in crisis. He looked around the room with the kind of confidence that came from never having to face real consequences for anything. That was about to change. Eli, Derek said, walking over with his hand extended like we were meeting at a business lunch. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I looked at his outstretched hand, but didn't take it. The only misunderstanding is you thinking I'd shake hands with the man who's been screwing my wife. Derek's confident smile faltered. Around the pub, conversations stopped entirely. Even Murphy had given up pretending to work and was watching openly now. Look, I know this is awkward. Awkward? I stood up from my bar stool. Derek was a couple inches taller than me, but I had 40 pounds on him, all of it earned through 15 years of construction work. You think this is awkward? Eli, please, Vanessa said, stepping between us. Let's not make a scene. A scene? Cal laughed, speaking up for the first time. Lady, you made the scene when you decided to cheat on your husband. We're just watching the final act. Derek's face flushed red. Who the hell are you? I'm the guy who's been listening to Eli talk about what a great wife he had, while you were busy proving him wrong. This is ridiculous, Derek said, his voice getting louder. Vanessa and I work together. We're friends. Just because we've spent some time together doesn't mean… At the Riverside Motel? I interrupted. Room 237, last Tuesday afternoon? Is that where Coastal Financial usually holds its meetings? Derek's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Or maybe you're talking about the time you spent together at your apartment last weekend, when your wife took the kids to visit her mother? Is that the kind of friendship you mean? By now, everyone in Murphy's was openly staring. Phones had come out. People were recording this, probably posting it to their own social media accounts. Vanessa looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. I don't have to listen to this, Derek said, but his voice lacked conviction. No, you don't, I agreed. You could leave. Go back to your fancy apartment. Explain to your wife why your girlfriend's belongings are being delivered to your door. I'm sure she'll understand. Derek went pale. You didn't. 12 boxes, delivered this morning. I'm betting she's already found them. Derek pulled out his phone and looked at the screen. From the expression on his face, I guessed he had several missed calls and messages waiting for him. "You son of a," he said, stepping toward me. "Careful," Cal said, standing up from his bar stool. "You really want to start something you can't finish?" Derek looked at Cal, all 6'2", 220 pounds of him, and apparently decided that discretion was the better part of valor. "This isn't over," Derek said. "Yeah, it is," I replied. "Your affair is over. My marriage is over. Your marriage is probably over too, thanks to those boxes. The only thing that's not over is you explaining to everyone in town why you thought it was okay to sleep with another man's wife." Derek looked around the pub at all the watching faces, the recording phones, the expressions ranging from disgust to amusement. Then he turned and walked toward the door. "Derek, wait," Vanessa called after him. He stopped and looked back at her. "I can't do this, Vanessa. I can't deal with this drama. My wife, my kids. This is too much." And then he was gone, leaving Vanessa standing in the middle of Murphy's pub like an actress who'd forgotten her lines. The silence stretched for a long moment. Then Murphy cleared his throat. "Another round?" he asked. The tension broke, and conversations resumed, but they were all about the same topic now, and Vanessa was the star of every one of them. She looked at me one more time, her eyes filled with something that might have been regret or might have been anger. "I hope you're happy," she said. "I'm not happy," I replied honestly, "but I'm not a fool anymore either." She walked out without another word, leaving me alone with Cal, Murphy, and a pub full of people who would be talking about this for months. Cal raised his beer. "To the truth." "To the truth," I agreed, clinking my glass against his. But even as I drank, I knew this was far from over. Vanessa and Derek might be running scared now, but cornered animals were dangerous. They'd regroup, try to spin the story, maybe even try to turn the town against me. They were welcome to try. I had more ammunition than they knew, and I was just getting started. The real show was yet to come. 3 days later, Castleport was buzzing with preparations for the annual Harvest Festival. Main Street was lined with vendor booths, the town square had been transformed into a performance area, and the smell of kettle corn and fried dough filled the air. It should have been a celebration, but for me, it felt more like a battlefield. Vanessa had been staying at Derek's apartment, though word around town was that his wife had thrown him out after finding those boxes. Apparently, Mrs. Monroe had not been understanding about her husband's extracurricular activities. Derek was reportedly staying at the Riverside Motel, the same place where he and Vanessa had conducted their affair. There was a certain poetic justice in that. I was manning the Dorsey Construction Supply booth, selling raffle tickets for a charity we sponsored every year. It was good for business and good for the community. Plus, it gave me a front-row seat to watch the social dynamics play out. Mrs. Hatcher had stopped by earlier with her usual commentary. "That Derek boy's been driving around town like a lost soul," she'd said, clearly relishing the gossip. "And Vanessa's been holed up in that fancy apartment building like she's afraid to show her face." She wasn't wrong. I'd seen Vanessa exactly once since the confrontation at Murphy's, driving through town with sunglasses on and her head down. The woman who used to hold court at every community event was suddenly invisible. But not today. Today was the Harvest Festival, and hiding wasn't an option if you wanted to maintain any standing in Castleport society. Cal wandered over from the beer tent, carrying 2 cups of what was allegedly cider but smelled suspiciously stronger. "Crowd's getting bigger," he observed. "You think they'll show?" "They'll show. Vanessa's too proud to let people think she's ashamed, and Derek's too stupid to realize he should be." As if summoned by our conversation, I spotted them across the square. Vanessa wore a sundress I'd never seen before and had her hair done in an elaborate style that must have cost her a fortune. Derek was beside her in his usual preppy uniform, but even from a distance, I could see the tension in his shoulders. They were trying to look casual, like a normal couple enjoying a community festival. But the way conversations stopped when they passed, the way people turned to stare and whisper, made it clear that their reputation had preceded them. "Showtime," Cal muttered. I watched as they made their way through the crowd, stopping at various booths with forced smiles. The vendors were polite. Business was business, after all. But the warmth that usually characterized these interactions was notably absent. They were heading in my direction, whether intentionally or not. I continued selling raffle tickets, chatting with customers, acting like I hadn't noticed them, but my peripheral vision tracked their progress like a radar system. "Eli Dorsey!" a voice called out. I turned to see Mayor Patricia Hendricks approaching my booth, her official festival smile firmly in place. Behind her, like an awkward parade, came Vanessa and Derek. "Patricia," I said, matching her professional tone. "Great turnout this year." "The best we've ever had," she agreed. "I was just talking to Vanessa and Derek here about community involvement. Derek's new to town, and we're always looking for volunteers." The mayor was trying to smooth things over, play peacemaker. It was a nice thought, but some things couldn't be smoothed. "Derek," I said, nodding at him like he was a casual acquaintance instead of the man who destroyed my marriage. "How's the apartment hunting going? I heard you were looking for a new place." His face flushed red. "It's going fine, thanks." "Good to hear. The Riverside Motel's not really a long-term solution, is it?" Mayor Hendricks looked confused, glancing between us. Vanessa stepped closer to Derek, a gesture that was probably meant to look supportive but came across as possessive. "Eli," Vanessa said, her voice carefully controlled, "we were hoping to talk to you about moving forward constructively." "Constructively?" I leaned back against my booth's counter. "That's an interesting word choice. What did you have in mind?" "Maybe we could find a way to handle this situation with more discretion, for everyone's sake." "Discretion," I repeated. "Like the discretion you showed during your 3-month affair?" Mayor Hendricks's eyes widened. "Perhaps this isn't the best place for this conversation." "Actually, it's the perfect place," I said. "Public square, community event, everyone can hear the truth instead of relying on rumors." A crowd was gathering, drawn by the obvious tension. I recognized faces from Murphy's Pub, from my business, from around town. Mrs. Patterson, Jim Riley, even Father McKenna was lurking at the edge of the group. "Eli, please," Vanessa said, her composure starting to crack. "Don't do this here." "Do what? Tell the truth? Share the facts about what happened to my marriage?" Derek stepped forward, trying to look authoritative. "Look, this has gone far enough. We're all adults here. These things happen. People grow apart, find connections with others. It doesn't have to be this dramatic." The crowd murmured at that. Derek had just made a crucial mistake. He'd essentially confirmed the affair in front of half the town. "You're right," I said. "These things do happen. Married people do cheat on their spouses, but usually they don't involve their friends in elaborate cover-up schemes. Usually, they don't lie about business trips and conferences that don't exist. And usually they have the decency to ask for a divorce before they start screwing around." "That's enough." Derek's voice cracked like a teenager's. "Is it? Because I've got recordings that say otherwise. I've got hotel receipts, GPS data, photographs. I've got 3 months of documentation that shows exactly how much planning went into betraying me." Vanessa was crying now, but quietly, trying not to make a scene even as she stood in the middle of one. "Eli, I know you're hurt, but this isn't helping anyone." "It's helping me," I said honestly. "For 3 months I felt like I was going crazy. My wife was distant, distracted, lying to me every day. I thought it was my fault. I thought I'd failed as a husband. Turns out I was just married to a cheater." The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. This was better than any festival entertainment they could have planned. Derek made another mistake. He got angry. "You want to know the truth?" he said. his voice rising. Fine. Vanessa wasn't happy. She hadn't been happy for years. You took her for granted, treated her like a housekeeper instead of a partner. She needed someone who appreciated her, who saw her potential. The crowd's murmur turned disapproving. Derek had just blamed me for his affair with my wife, in front of the entire town. So you decided to help her with that? I asked. How noble of you. Tell me, did you appreciate her potential before or after you got her into bed? I didn't. Derek was floundering now, realizing he'd walked into a trap. Because from where I stand, it looks like you saw a married woman who was vulnerable, and you took advantage of that. Some people might call that predatory. I love her, Derek shouted, and immediately looked like he regretted it. The crowd actually gasped. This was small-town drama at its finest, and everyone knew they were witnessing something they'd talk about for years. You love her, I repeated. That's interesting. Does your wife know about this love? Do your kids know that Daddy loves another man's wife? Derek went pale. Leave my family out of this. I didn't bring your family into this. You did, when you decided to cheat on them with my wife. Mayor Hendricks was trying to regain control of the situation. Perhaps we should all take a step back. No, I said, my voice carrying across the square. I think the town deserves to know what kind of people they're dealing with. Derek Monroe moved to Castleport, joined our community, and immediately started an affair with a married woman. Vanessa Dorsey, who's lived here for 15 years, chose to betray her marriage vows and lie to everyone who cared about her. I looked around at the watching faces, seeing a mixture of shock, disapproval, and fascination. These are the facts. Make your own judgments about the kind of people you want in your community. With that, I turned back to my raffle tickets, effectively dismissing them. The crowd began to disperse, but slowly, with plenty of backward glances and whispered conversations. Vanessa and Derek stood there for a moment, looking lost. Then Derek grabbed Vanessa's arm and pulled her away, pushing through the crowd toward the parking area. Cal appeared at my elbow. That was brutal, man. Effective, but brutal. They wanted to handle this publicly, I said, watching them retreat. I just gave them what they asked for. But even as I said it, I knew this wasn't the end. Public humiliation was just another weapon in the arsenal, and I had plenty more ammunition left. The festival continued around us, but the real show was just getting started. 2 weeks after the festival, Castleport had settled into a new normal. Vanessa and Derek had become the town's favorite cautionary tale, their affair dissected over coffee and analyzed at every social gathering. Derek's wife had filed for divorce and taken the kids back to Boston. Derek himself had been let go from Coastal Financial. Apparently, having an affair with a coworker was frowned upon in the corporate world. Vanessa was still employed, technically, but she'd been moved to a different department and was working mostly from home. The official reason was restructuring, but everyone knew the truth. Nobody wanted to work with the woman who'd destroyed 2 marriages. I was in my office, reviewing the final divorce papers, when Cal knocked on my door. "You've got visitors," he said, his expression unreadable. "If it's Vanessa, it's not Vanessa. It's her parents." Robert and Linda Morrison stood in my waiting room like they owned the place. Robert wore his usual expensive suit, his silver hair perfectly styled. Linda clutched her designer purse like a shield, her mouth set in the disapproving line I'd grown familiar with over 15 years of marriage. They'd never liked me. I wasn't good enough for their daughter, didn't have the right education or the right pedigree, but I'd made Vanessa happy, or so I'd thought, and that had been enough to earn their grudging tolerance. "Eli," Robert said, not offering to shake hands. "We need to talk." "About what?" "About this situation with Vanessa." I gestured for them to sit, but they remained standing. Power play, probably something Robert had learned in his corporate days. "What situation would that be?" Linda spoke up, her voice sharp with indignation. "Don't play games with us. You've humiliated our daughter publicly. You've destroyed her reputation, her career prospects. This vindictive behavior has to stop." "Vindictive?" I leaned back in my chair. "I told the truth. If the truth is humiliating, maybe Vanessa should have thought about that before she decided to cheat on me." "People make mistakes," Robert said. "Marriage is complicated, but airing your private business in public, posting on social media, making scenes at community events, that's not how civilized people handle these situations." "You're right," I agreed. "Civilized people ask for a divorce before they start sleeping with other people. But Vanessa chose a different approach." "She's our daughter," Linda said, tears forming in her eyes. "We've watched her struggle with depression, with feeling unappreciated in her marriage. She made a mistake, but she doesn't deserve to be destroyed for it." Depression? This was news to me. When was Vanessa depressed? "For years," Linda continued. "She felt trapped, unfulfilled. She needed support, understanding, not public humiliation. If she was depressed, why didn't she talk to me about it? Why didn't she suggest counseling or therapy or any of the things married couples do when they're having problems?" Robert and Linda exchanged glances. They didn't have an answer for that. "Instead," I continued, "she decided to have an affair. She involved her friends in lying to me. She spent 3 months sneaking around, making me feel like I was losing my mind. That was her solution to feeling unfulfilled." "You're not perfect either," Robert said, his voice getting harder. "You work too much. You're not ambitious enough. You never tried to better yourself. Maybe if you'd been a better husband—" "Stop right there." I stood up, my own anger finally breaking through. "I worked hard to build a business, to provide for your daughter, to give her the life she wanted. I never cheated, never lied, never betrayed our marriage. But somehow this is my fault?" "We're not saying it's your fault," Linda said quickly. "We're saying that maybe there's enough blame to go around. Maybe you could find it in your heart to forgive her, to work things out privately instead of continuing this public campaign against her." "Public campaign?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I posted one Facebook message with the facts. Everything else has been Vanessa and Derek making spectacles of themselves." "The whole town is talking about her," Linda said. "She can't go anywhere without people staring, whispering. She's lost friends, professional connections. You've ruined her life." "She ruined her own life. I just made sure everyone knew about it." Robert stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. "This ends now, Eli. You're going to post a public apology. Admit that you bear some responsibility for the breakdown of your marriage. You're going to stop this vindictive behavior and let our daughter rebuild her life with some dignity. Or what? Or we'll make things very difficult for you. I still have connections in this state, business relationships that could affect your company. Don't think I won't use them." I looked at these two people who'd never thought I was good enough for their daughter, who were now threatening me to protect the woman who'd betrayed me. "Get out," I said quietly. "Excuse me?" "Get out of my office. Get out of my building, and don't come back." "Eli, be reasonable." "I am being reasonable. Your daughter chose to destroy our marriage. She chose to lie and cheat and involve other people in her deception. Those were her choices, and now she gets to live with the consequences. Just like I have to live with the consequences of trusting her." Linda was crying openly now. "Please, Eli. She's learned her lesson. She knows she made a mistake. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive her?" "Maybe I could have," I said honestly. "If she'd come to me, admitted what she'd done, asked for forgiveness. But she didn't. She got caught. There's a difference." Robert pulled out his phone. "I'm calling our lawyer. We'll see how you feel about this when you're dealing with a lawsuit." "Sue me for what? Telling the truth? Good luck with that." They left without another word, Linda sobbing into her handkerchief, Robert muttering threats under his breath. Cal appeared in my doorway as soon as they were gone. That sounded intense. "They want me to apologize, to take responsibility for Vanessa's affair." "And you told them—" I told them to get out. Cal grinned. Good. You know what this means, though. They're desperate. Vanessa's probably in bad shape if her parents are making house calls. He was right. The Morrisons were proud people, not the type to beg for anything. If they were here, it meant Vanessa was at rock bottom. Part of me, a small part, felt sorry for her. But a larger part remembered the 3 months of lies, the recordings of her with Derek, the way she'd made me feel like I was going crazy. My phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. This is Derek. We need to talk. It's important. I showed the message to Cal, who laughed out loud. They're all coming out of the woodwork today. What are you going to tell him? I thought about it for a moment, then typed back, Murphy's Pub, 1 hour. Come alone. You sure about that? Cal asked. Yeah, it's time to finish this. One way or another, today was going to be the end of the Derek Monroe chapter of my life, and I was going to make sure it ended on my terms. Derek was already at Murphy's when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with his back to the wall like he was expecting trouble. He looked like hell, unshaven, his usual preppy clothes wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. The golden boy image had definitely taken a beating. The pub was quieter than usual for a Thursday evening. Word had gotten around town about the confrontations, and people were probably staying away to avoid getting caught in the crossfire. Or maybe they were all waiting outside to see what would happen next. I slid into the booth across from Derek, noting that he'd ordered whiskey instead of his usual craft beer. Liquid courage, probably. You look terrible, I said. Thanks. You look great. His voice was bitter, defeated. Enjoying yourself? Not particularly. But I'm not the one who chose to blow up 2 marriages, so I'm dealing with it better than you are. Derek took a long drink of his whiskey. I lost everything, Eli. My wife, my kids, my job. Sarah took the kids back to Boston. I can't even see them without supervised visits. That's what happens when you cheat on your wife with a coworker. Actions have consequences. And Vanessa, Christ, Vanessa's falling apart. She's barely eating, barely sleeping. She's talking about leaving town, starting over somewhere else. Sounds like a plan. Fresh start might be good for both of you. Derek looked up at me, his eyes red-rimmed and desperate. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I'm leaving Castleport, tonight. I've got a job offer in Portland, and I'm taking it. Congratulations. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I'm not taking Vanessa with me. That got my attention. Come again? I'm leaving alone. The affair, it's over. It was a mistake, a huge mistake, and I can't fix what I've broken. But maybe I can stop making it worse. I studied his face, looking for signs of deception,